I love so many people. It sounds weird when I say I don't like somebody, but no, I never liked Robin, and I think the audience felt the same way. I'm sorry to be blunt.
It was a best-selling video game at first, then a smash at the box office.
Known worldwide for playing title character Liu Kang in 1995's film adaptation of the popular Mortal Kombat video game, Robin Shou was born Shou Wan-por on July 17, 1960. Prior to Mortal Kombat, Robin had already been in the film business working as a stunt performer in Hong Kong for 9 years.
I've done like 20-some films in Hong Kong, and I choreograph a lot of my films. And choreography is sort of like self-defense, but then yet you gotta be stylish because it's on film. So then you want to as stylish as possible. So then you mix in the flourish stuff and the technique of martial arts.
Robin Shou didn't start training in martial arts until he was 19 years old. He first began classes and trained in Kenpo Karate while attending California State University, Los Angeles. However, he soon realized that karate didn't do anything for him, so he decided to quit. A year and a half later, his interest in martial arts would explode after watching a demonstration by a group of Wu Shu practitioners from Beijing. Because he was so inspired by that demonstration, just before starting his senior year at UCLA, he sold his car and used the money to begin studying Wu Shu in China. After years of training in Wu Shu, Robin became an international forms champion and member of the national Wu Shu team. He would then take off to Hong Kong on vacation, and soon after his arrival was offered a chance to appear in a movie as a stuntman. From there, he was offered job after job.
Actually, I started off as a stunt person, and that's why, right now, I have a chance to choreograph, act, and do all the stunt in the movie.
Robin's first real dramatic role was in the film Forbidden Nights in 1990, where he played opposite Melissa Gilbert. Though only a TV film, this was his American debut and surely a huge step forward for Hollywood. He would then go back to Hong Kong and continue to make movies there. By this time, he was more thorough about the roles he was offered, but soon became bored as it was more of the same. He returned to Los Angeles in 1994 to start an import business.
An importer.
Just imports, no exports?
He's an importer-exporter, okay?
While working as an importer-exporter, he got a call from his agent who was ranting about a perfect role for him in a movie called Mortal Kombat. Initially, Robin wasn't interested and assumed he would once again just be playing a villain who gets killed in the end. His agent begged him to audition anyways, which he did along with other top contenders at the time such as Jason Scott Lee, Russell Wong, and Philip Ree. 7 auditions later, Robin was offered the role of Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat. The movie became a mainstream hit and stood at the top of the US box office for 3 weeks. Robin followed up with the success to that film with 1997's Beverly Hills Ninja, where he starred alongside the late Chris Farley. Also in 1997, the sequel to Mortal Kombat would come out titled Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Panned by critics, MK Annihilation wasn't a hit with the audiences either and would bomb at the box office, which would unfortunately annihilate the momentum Robin was building up in Hollywood and mainstream audiences. Years later, he would make smaller appearances in films such as 2006's Dead or Alive and 2009's Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, 2 other video game adaptations. However, he would never get close to achieving the height of his success after 1995's Mortal Kombat. When it comes to Hollywood stardom and mainstream acceptance by the audiences, there are, of course, many factors and variables at play, and it's quite interesting to see what film producer Bay Logan thinks about this whole subject as it pertains to Robin Shou.
What happened with Robin Shou after Mortal Kombat? Well, I did a Robin Shou movie before that, Guns N' Roses, my first film.
Oh, really?
In Birmingham, England. Yes, I was a producer on that, and Robin came in, and the second or third day of shooting, he jumped off the roof of a hospital. In the movie, he wasn't trying to. People do jump off buildings when they work.
Yeah, sure.
That was not that case, but he jumped off in character and broke his foot.
Ooh.
We had to shoot around that for the rest of it.
Jeez.
I don't know. Well, okay, I can just go on my personal experience. I had seen Robin. I did a film with Robin, obviously, and had seen him around and then in the industry, and saw him at Mortal Kombat and whatever, and Beverly Hills Ninja. To be really honest, for me personally, I never warmed to him in real life for whatever reason, and I didn't think his characters were particularly. It's like people would write all kind of stuff about Jean-Claude Van Damme. But
Sure.
I mean, I know he's an idol of yours. But I can say, as somebody who's been his friend for many years and known him for a long time, that there's an innate goodness in the guy, who's an imperfect human like all of us. But there's this innate niceness and this, kind of illuminated spirit that comes across on film. And indeed, if you can, if you have time with him that manifests, you realize who he is as a person. And he's still this dear, sweet guy from Belgium. I really believe that. And I think that's why, through all its ups and downs, his career has sustained, because his fans are very patient with him and they see something there. And maybe it's not his fault, but with Robin, I never felt that, Jackie Chan had it. Jackie Chan has that sweetness in person and whatever. But no, I never much. I mean, I hate to, I love so many people. It sounds weird when I say I don't like somebody, but I never liked Robin, and I think the audience felt the same way. I'm sorry to be blunt, but it's that.
Hey man, like if that, yeah, I mean,
the audience felt the same way. And again, it's called show business. If by the way, if it's like, if I didn't like somebody and the rest of the audience did, who cares? He would have been in 10 more movies in starring roles. And everybody loves him, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, Guns N' Roses with me, he's a grumpy bugger." Who cares what old Lokes thinks? But I do think when you ask about people's careers who had a breakout early film or had success, it's one of two things: they are the architect of their own demise, like George Lazenby on A Majesty's Secret Service, or as with Tony Jaa, events conspire against them. Yeah. Or it can be a combination of the two. The optimum is if the audience warms to the person and they have a fantastic support network, a solid support network. I mean, honestly, you cannot underestimate the benefit to Jackie Chan of having Willie Chan as his manager. And then Leonard Ho, who's kind of a bit overshadowed by Raymond Chow, but Leonard Ho as his godfather at don't mean godfather in a mafia term, godfather in a Kaye kind of Chinese relationship. Yeah. Those relationships really saw him through the first part of his career.
Yeah, it's always an interesting topic in discussion. It's like you have to have, obviously, whatever actor needs the right character, but the way they, embody that character with like their own personality, because as great as an actor anybody is, you're never going to get completely away from yourself. There's always going to be like, you're this person. There's certain things that you have just, like what you mentioned about Van Damme. He has that, like in every character he plays, even though a lot of his characters, some of them are very, very dark, some are more happy, charismatic, but there's always, you could see the real Van Damme within each of these characters. And that's just something the audience has always been, gravitated toward.
I worked with him on a film and it's very challenging making films, but the director and I were looking at a camera, just slowly pushing in on him. I think I told the story before. And it was so interesting because you so want to know what he's thinking. And you could put a 25-year-old, good-looking, younger guy and do the same camera move. And the audience is like, looks like a male model, great. But with him, there's just something going on. And you either have it or you don't. But I do think there are people. I mean, I'll give you an example. Somebody you've had on the show, Don Wilson.
Okay.
Don is an innately nice man, a good person.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he works like an MF, which I think I talked about this some length before, the idea of people that I've never known anybody who really worked diligently and was a good person, had a modicum of talent, who completely failed. When Don succeeded, I mean, I shouldn't sell him short. He had a fantastic run of films. But I think it was down to, I don't know that he had that much innate talent as an actor. He just worked at it. He worked at his acting, went out and sold those films state by state, worked on the action sequences, worked on producing stuff, worked on his physique, worked on everything. And everybody comes away from him, including you, I think, going, Don Wilson's one of the nicest guys.
Well, what's so cool? So I thought that anyway, just from interviewing him, but because of this channel, I've been able to meet a lot of these people in person. So the cool thing is, like, I know people all around the world now. And like last time I was in California visiting my brother, it's like Don doesn't live that far. So
Yeah.
we trained together.
I saw that.
Days.
I think that was so cool. Talk about
was
like
the coolest thing ever.
dream.
And then eating lunch
Yeah.
together, just hanging out with them, and that's the thing that's been the most incredible with this channel is just the friendships, the networking, the relationships I'm able to build. So
I used to see Don, like, I think a couple of years running, we saw him in Cannes, and he's just almost exhausting with his energy level. And he had his dragon wear. I think he had a t-shirt line, and he gave me a t-shirt or whatever, but always a joy to be around. And I do think, as you very correctly say, that joy of life, it kind of, the joie de vivre, it kind of, you can see it on the screen, and that's the guy audiences want to see. And there are other people who have a really impressive debut or a great showcase, and you never see them again. And I think the problem is either with them or they were really, really unlucky. And, you know, I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm not sure which is true in this case, but you look at Timac with The Last Dragon, where you think, how did that guy never do another film? It just boggles the mind.
audiences loved him.
I saw the interviews where he talked about it. It still, for me, didn't completely make sense why he never. I actually almost worked on a film with him. It was called Black Ninja, and I think he had shot some stuff for it in New York. And I was with Toby Russell, the son of Ken Russell, in Taiwan, preparing to do Black Ninja with Timac. And then the money fell through. But that would have been a low budget indie film. I would have thought after Last Dragon, he could have at some stage found something else to do, but that was a mystery. So there are people like that where they have the most incredible debut opening round in film history, and then you don't see them again.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, they're still talking about The Last Dragon Part 2. It's a real discussion, man. Like I know I don't know if the writer Louis Finosta, I think that's his name, if he finished it or not, but he tweeted like last year and was kind of hinting, hey, we got something going, and you know, Timac was excited. I don't know if they really got much info out, but they've been talking.
He looks
about
amazing. I mean, Timac looks incredible.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's aged really well.
I mean, I don't know what the idea is if you bring in a new, like the next Last Dragon, and that's a younger dude and he becomes the mentor, or is it he's kind of retired from the world and he has to come back for some reason and, you know, reclaim his lost honor. And the other concern I would have, particularly with that film and even something like Big Trouble in Little China, is if the components of it are all pretty generic. It was the tone. The tone of the film was so unique. And I would have a question in my mind of how you can recapture it. And I say this is the guy that made Crouching Tiger 2. And I fully admit did not capture the tone of Crouching Tiger 1 before you guys all right in. But that was a good learning experience for me. That beyond the story and the characters and bringing back the actors and, you know, the fan references and everything, it's like the tone. So I wonder, in the modern cynical world, can you really recapture the innocent? Because what I loved about that film, Last Dragon, was the innocence of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Even though it had great martial arts fights and it was fun, it was a very innocent, bright movie. And I wonder, how do you do that again today? But if the phone rang and somebody said, "Hey, Mr. Logan, could you work on Last Dragon too?" I'd give it a shot. But I'd be curious to see how that turned out.
Yeah, because the world is very cynical now. Because even Bloodsport had the innocence to it, at least the Van Damme character, even though it was like
absolutely
people died, but it was like it was very interesting.
I heard you can get killed at that Kumite.
Only if you fuck up.